If you play a contact sport, you can probably do more contact than you think. I tend to think that people think that there's a kind of all or nothing, should be full contact or just touch or completely non-contact, football, rugby league, rugby union, but you can do contact more often than you think. And I'm going to show you how, using a very simple formula that I use. You can use your own variation of it, implement your own thing. The first thing to do is to think about things in terms of contact and collisions, because they're not exactly the same thing. So contact would be things like when we're in close, kind of pushing, pulling against each other, even kind of wrestling, grappling, pummeling, that kind of stuff. Collisions is when there's some separation between the players. So that could be 2 steps, that could be 10 steps. But it's a very different demands on the body, on the musculoskeletal system, on the nervous system. So contact, in my view, if you modulate it, is something that you can do all the time. Whereas collisions is not something that you can do all the time. It has a much higher nervous system cost, much higher risk of injury. And of course, as with any kind of impact collision tackling, there is of course a risk of concussion as well. So we don't want to be doing that all the time, but we can do contact all the time, and I'll show you how. So we've already divided between contact and collisions. Let's call this our formula for implementing contact. So once you've done that, you divide it between intensity and volume, and then from there we can give each of these a grading. You could do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but let's say low, 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 moderate, 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 and high, 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 high. For instance, early on in the preseason, I'm probably going to put my players through a pretty intense wrestle session in our contact room, lots of padding, but because it's early in the preseason, we've not really had a chance to do impacts, tackling, and collisions. Maybe it's going to be a contact-focused one, but it's still going to be intense. So maybe on day 1, we'll do some contact stuff, but maybe low intensity, low volume, or moderate intensity, low volume, or low intensity, moderate volume. But then after a week or so, after a few sessions, maybe we'll go contact. Collisions will be low, low, or 0 even, but contact, maybe we'll throw in one session where it's high, high. Okay, but the collisions are still low. So they can still recover pretty well from that session. It's going to be demanding at the time, but it's going to be quite a low nervous system cost. So even, for instance, if we had training on the Monday, maybe we could just do some simple technique work, locking onto the ball, that kind of thing. So low intensity, low volume, or even straying into moderate. Collisions, low, low, or 0, 0. Wednesday comes around, maybe this is when we do our really high intense wrestle contact session. We throw them in the washing machine, make it really hard. So that's high, high. Thursday and Friday come around, we want to go back down. So we go low, 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 0, 0. Coming into week 2, 3 of the preseason, maybe we've started to introduce some like actual impact, some separation, some distance between the players. So now we're talking about the contact load and the collisions load. So maybe we could do, let's say we could do moderate intensity, because we don't want the guys charging at each other from 10 yards away, because we're only just getting back into the swing of things. But maybe moderate intensity, there's a little bit of distance. Maybe we're using some tools like tackle bags and shields, and volume low to moderate as well, probably, or even low intensity but high volume. And then after a few weeks, maybe we're in the position where we're comfortable with the level of contact that they've already done. They've gone through their processes and stuff like that. Maybe we're going to throw in some like live game type situations. So obviously a live game type situation is going to be high contact, high intensity of contact, high volume of contact, high intensity of collisions, and high volume of collisions all at the same time. So we really need to probably come back down after that. So let's say that's a Wednesday, our next session is the following day or the Friday. We really want to like tamper it back down to low, 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 low. And that's going to keep the load off your players. If we've got a game, think about the game on the weekends, a competitive fixture, that's obviously going to be high, 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 high here. So let's say we play on a Saturday. Your players are back in on a Monday, for example. Yeah, you can do contact. You probably want to avoid collisions, but you can probably do some contact. So you can do low intensity, low volume. Maybe it's just a case of, getting them in the field, finding some underhooks, some overhooks, that kind of thing, or maybe some offload drills. So real minimal contact, but we can still do it a couple of days after the game. What we can also do is before the game as well, we can include collisions. Maybe we want to do high intensity, but very, very low volume. So maybe at the end of the session, you've done your captain's run, you've done your walkthrough, You've gone over some of your plays. Maybe some players, it could be individual choice or it could be the team. Maybe you just want to get them hitting the shields. A handful of times just to wake up the nervous system, get the nervous system primed for the collisions of the following day or 2 days later, for example. So that would be moderate to high intensity because maybe we're using a shield, but it would be low volume. So maybe after a good warm up, of course, maybe we just do 5 or 6 impacts. But you really want them going for it. Really want a lot of force in the collision. So yeah, low volume, moderate to high intensity. Maybe it'll be low contact because maybe you just want them wrapping up afterwards, something like that. You probably don't want to be doing high intensity and volume of contact before a game because it's just gonna fatigue the player's muscles. It's not gonna have the nervous system demand necessarily. Depends what you do, but it is going to leave them a little bit more fatigued for those kind of in close quarters, wrestling, grappling. Beating an opposition player in close quarters. So just like I said, kind of a easy formula for implementing contact and collisions throughout the week. Maybe you'll have 1 week where this is high, moderate, 1 week where you go back down low, or within the same week, you have some sessions that are low to moderate, some sessions that are moderate to high, come back down again. So I hope that makes sense, but that's just a way that I use to grade the contact when I'm planning sessions and make sure that we're not doubling up the contact load on the players, or maybe we realize actually we've gone pretty light the last few weeks. The players need a bit of contact, a bit of collision, a bit of impact, a bit of tackle work to really get back in the rhythm to make sure that they're not neglecting that part come game day.